What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made these. Beautiful, delicious, saucy, smoky, tender, amazing, chili style baby back ribs. Coming up. These are some ribs. Pat them dry. And what I got here is a rack of baby back ribs, looking pretty meaty, good amount of fat content. Picked these up at the local grocery store. The membrane has been removed already, and that's fine by me. If there was a membrane on, I'd probably just leave it on, but you know, I'll leave membrane preference up to you. And today we're making one of my favorite styles of ribs. I'm not sure if it's nostalgia because these are the style of ribs that I grew up with, or just because it's a little more different than the things I typically cook on this channel. And the ribs we're making today aren't Texas style. They're not South Carolina kind of direct heat cooking style, but they're more like chili style, which should be a pretty quick cook. They're gonna be steamed out a little bit, and then we're gonna cook some sauce onto them, and they're just so good for summertime grilling, and they're really fun to make. But taking a look at these ribs, they look pretty good, pretty clean already, not much to do. Again, they didn't do a great job of taking this membrane off, so I'll probably go through and clean this up a little bit, but I'm not all too concerned. We got a little extra meat on this top part right here, so we'll zip that down. Could square off the tiny ends if you like, but really you don't have to do anything. Baby backs are pretty clean, and today is all about a super easy, quick cook. Well, I guess we'll see how quick it is, but really low effort cook is what I mean by that. But these are looking good, so now all we gotta do is get some rub on there. And in the vein of keeping things super simple, I'm gonna go down with some all-purpose seasoning, the Chud Rub OG, which I've been making for a long time. I came up with this recipe at Friedman's back in 2015. So this recipe is now 10 years old, which is pretty cool. And it still holds up, but of course, any all-purpose rub will get the job done, or you could just go salt and pepper. But just a nice healthy coating all over. Could go on with a binder if you felt like it. I'm usually not a binder guy, but I don't think there's any wrong moves with a recipe like this one. Flip it over, and now we'll get the top, and we're not gonna forget the sides, because that would be a rookie move. And just like that, all rubbed down. I'm gonna let these sit out for the next 10 minutes or so, just to let that salt kind of work on the meat, drawing out some moisture, and letting that rub adhere. And while we wait for that, let's go ahead and fire up the pit. Boop. Going on with some smoky pecan shell pellets today, as usual, my pellet of choice. And they haven't steered me wrong yet. You know, they got great flavor, and they're made out of 100% pecan shells. No pecan wood, no fillers, no anything like that. So all natural, good flavor, good smoke. They last a while. And if you want to save some money on your first order of these, click my link in the description box of this video. And on the pit we go. This thing is still on its fire up sequence, so should get a little bit of extra smoke on there, which is a good thing. Although we're not necessarily going for super smoky ribs, which is why I think this recipe is perfect for a pellet grill, but you know, a little smoke flavor never hurt anybody. Upper rack right in the middle, I did plump them up a little bit so they're nice and meaty, and it's coming up to temp at 275 degrees, so we'll let this thing come up to temp. And I probably should mention that you may not want to do this depending on what kind of pellet grill you have, because I've seen a lot of videos of people throwing meat on or just leaving the door closed during the fire up sequence, and then they fill up with smoke and tend to explode. But I read somewhere that this pit doesn't do that, but I should probably double check on that. But I've done it plenty of times and haven't had any bad experiences, but you may want to look into it depending on what kind of pellet grill you've got. But the game plan for this cook is to cook pretty hot and fast. You know, I set it at 275 degrees, but on that upper rack it's probably going to be closer to 300. And we're really not going for super smoky ribs, but we do want to get the cooking process started, and we want to make sure all that rub and bark is set on these ribs. So we'll check back in probably an hour, maybe 30 minutes. I'm just going to keep an eye on them, and we'll check back in. 1 hour later. Looking pretty good. Bark is definitely set on there. That's a good thing. Taking a temp check, we're already at 165, 170. Now we're like 175 over there. So yeah, really quick cook. But now we're gonna pull these off and give them a wrap. Definitely not the prettiest looking ribs at this stage, but honestly not bad. Decent color on there. We'll go ahead and flip these over. Bottom side's looking good as well. And now we're just gonna wrap them up nice and tight. And again, we're doing more of a saucy grilled rib today instead of a low and slow smoky rib like we often do on the old offset. So we're gonna get most of our flavor from the rub, the sauce, and the grilling at the end of the day. And now that that bark is set, we got a little smoke flavor on there. We're gonna wrap them up nice and tight like this, which is gonna trap a lot of steam in there, making them get really nice and tender and cook a lot quicker, and hopefully get some good bone pull back. So I'm gonna pop these back on the pit for probably another 30 minutes, and then we'll check back in and see how they're feeling. Same temp. This video is brought to you by Cafe Casino. Cafe Casino is a great place to kill some time, whether you're waiting for a brisket to cook or your sausage to cure, because they've got a bunch of free-to-play online games. I know for me personally, whenever I'm editing a video, I like to break up the monotony by heading over to Cafe Casino and trying to build that pesky burger that I can never seem to get put together correctly. They've also got a bunch of recipes. Hey, I know that guy. Ooh, grilled brie. That sounds good. I should probably try and make that. With all the instructions and ingredients that you'd expect. So if you're looking to unwind at the end of a long day or kill some time playing some free online games, be sure to check out Cafe Casino using my link in the description box of this video. 1.5 hours later. These ribs are looking good. And by that, I mean feeling good. Got some lovely bone pullback on there, looking nice and juicy, obviously, and they are temping really hot. And that's kind of the thing about these hot and fast cooks, is that this came up to like 203, 205 degrees really quickly after I wrapped them, but they're still feeling really tough. You can kind of see right here where I've been poking them, trying to feel between the bones to get an idea of how tender that meat is. And yeah, they're still temping around 205 internal. And feeling tender, but still a little bit toothsome, which is kind of what we're after on ribs. So now I'm gonna go ahead and pull these off. But if we take a look at these things, open them up, they are definitely nice and tender. That's why I would leave the membrane on, by the way. Like, that bone looks like it wants to fall right out of there, but they're feeling nice and firm and looking pretty good, honestly. Definitely nice and juicy, steamed out a little bit, feeling good. So we're gonna let these cool down for a little bit. That way they firm up a little bit, because if these are too tender, we're trying to grill them off, we're gonna probably have them fall apart on us, which we don't want, but very well may happen, because these are feeling really tender. But we've got the grill set up in grilling formation, so we're gonna let those grill grates heat up while this cools down just a little bit, and then we'll throw them on. And now that our grill is nice and hot, we've got the little fire door there open, so we're doing some direct grilling over the, what do you call that thing? Pellet pot. And simply enough, we're just gonna grill these off to get some better texture and cook some sauce onto them. So down they go. Just a few minutes on each side at first, and we'll go ahead and flip these over. Ooh, love that sizzle, love that color already. Just getting an initial sear here to kind of cook on any extra juices and get a little crust going and add some lovely wood smoke flavor. I'm getting nervous, folks. This one shiner bone that's poking all the way through is definitely the weak spot in the rack. So if I accidentally break this rack in half, it's gonna be right there, but not much we can do about that. And when I set this into grilling mode, I turned it up to 300 degrees, so it's still a pretty low and slow sear, which gives us a lot of wiggle room as far as not burning these too quickly. And that color is looking absolutely beautiful. So before I flip these over, it's time to hit it with some barbecue sauce. And in the vein of simple videos, we're going with some Sweet Baby Ray's. It's a classic, can't go wrong. Although I do have a video very similar to this one where I did the same technique with beef back ribs, where I made my own Sweet Baby Ray's from scratch. So you can check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. But today we're just about that simple summer grilling ribs recipe. Nice thin layer. And now we can flip this over and start charring that sauce on, cooking it on. Loving how these are looking already though. And while we're here, we'll sauce the top as well. Oh yeah, now it feels like summertime grilling. Saucing some ribs over a live fire. Smoke in the eyes. Ugh. That just looks like some classic saucy barbecue ribs already. Definitely got to pay close attention at this point in the cook, because we got a sugary sauce over an open flame, but so far everything's looking good. And after about 4, maybe 5 minutes of cooking on that underside, I'm gonna flip these over and we're gonna do the same thing to the top. Oh yeah. Those are looking good. Really good bone pullback on there. Sauce is cooking on, but nothing's too burnt or blackened. And it smells absolutely fantastic, gotta tell you. And after another couple of minutes, we'll go ahead and flip these back over and see how they're looking. And I gotta say, I am liking how that looks. I'm gonna go on with one final squeeze, just a little one, and get that painted on all over. Oh, they're so pretty. But now these are fully cooked, fully sauced, and done, feeling nice and tender. So out they come. We're gonna pop them back into the foil they came from and pull these off to rest. And just like that, out these come. And as always, if you got any juices left in your foil, you can give it a little bit of a, oops. Oh no. It's just extra flavor. And I gotta say, I'm pretty pleased with how these are looking. Nice and red, beautiful bone pullback from that little steaming session we had. They look a little bit darker on this camera than they do in real life, but they look quite red, which is beautiful, and they smell great. And I should mention that in the intro, I called these chili style baby back ribs, but they're not really a copycat Chili's recipe or anything like that. It's more so the style of kind of wrapping them up and steaming them, and then finishing them on the grill with some sauce on top, which is something I used to poo-poo as a Texas barbecue purist. But after cooking a couple thousand racks of ribs, I'm down for any style of rib, and these are some of my favorites, or at least I think they are. But let's slice in and see how they came out. Very tender. And there we have it, folks, a beautiful, meaty, saucy, grilled, very tasty looking baby back rib. Let's give it a try. Funny enough, we still did get a smoke ring on there on both sides, so that's pretty cool, but let's see if it's tender. Oh my God, that is so tasty. I mean, come on. There's nothing not to like about that, folks. Perfectly seasoned, obviously nice and tender, clean bone, juicy meat. The sweetness on that is so good. That is fantastic. Meaty bite, tender. What more do you need, folks? It honestly does have more smoke to it than I was expecting, you know? Especially because it was only in the actual smoke for an hour, but it's more that fire roasted smoke from the searing process. But I tell you what, I could eat a lot of these. Go for an end, guys, shall we? Nom, nom, nom. That is a beautiful rib right there. It's also just a classic rib, you know what I mean? I mentioned nostalgia early on in the video because growing up in the Northeast, the only ribs I ever had was at places like Applebee's or Chili's or something like that. And to get back to it, but with, you know, a little bit better technique and proper rubs and Sweet Baby Ray's, haven't had that in a while. Good stuff, honestly. No hate for Sweet Baby Ray's, but it's just ribs. Where now I'm in the barbecue world, ribs used to be a food category, if you know what I mean. That's very good. Little sticky, little sweet, nice and tender. And it couldn't be much easier of a rib cook than that, folks. I like it. And I know in the beginning I said this is kind of a quick and easy rib recipe, but you know, that cook did take a little bit longer than I was expecting. That was what, 2.5 hours on the pit, and then another 10, 20 minutes of grilling. So not necessarily a quick meal, but in the barbecue world, to get tender barbecue like this, 3 hours total, ain't bad. But I've also never done this on a pellet grill. Usually I'm doing this on a Weber or the Chud box or the Chud grill or something like that. And I remember it being a little bit quicker, but never documented it, so hard to tell. But that is a fantastic rib for 3 hours worth of work, if you ask me. I mean, look at that. Perfect bite. Gotta love it. And the flavor is just so good. But before I devour probably this entire rack off camera, I think it is time for the official taste test. Oops. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make some absolutely fantastic, saucy, grilled baby back ribs on a pellet grill. I highly recommend giving this one a try. You know, no matter what kind of cooker you've got, as long as you have the ability to do indirect and direct heat grilling, this recipe works out great pretty much every time. Comes together relatively quickly, and I'm sure if I bumped those temps up to 325, 350, we could have had very similar results in probably half the time, and maybe even get this cook under an hour. But there is something about a saucy grilled rib that I love, and I keep making them all the time, and it's just perfect for summertime grilling, and definitely something I'll be making again very soon. But all that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. On YouTube, know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe / technique a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Team Chud members. Thank you for supporting this channel and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace.